These are the 5 biggest mistakes people make when they go no contact with an avoidant. The first is that they use no contact as a strategy and not a boundary. If your goal is to make them chase by going no contact, you are still emotionally hooked because there is a caveat for you going no contact that still is tied to their actions. You're hoping that by you going no contact, essentially they're going to have this epiphany and realize that they want to be in a relationship with you and see all of the things that you've done up until this point to try to make things great for them and how you are the perfect partner for them. And even though those things are true, that probably is not going to happen because, again, when it comes to an avoidant, they want to avoid any type of emotions that's going to make them feel vulnerable or trying to analyze things from that perspective because they've really have run this avoidant attachment style so long and believe that it is the way that they need to be, that they have a really strong way of causing them to be distracted from that reality and to continue to tell themselves whatever they are telling themselves to believe that going no contact is in their best interest. So again, when you're using this as a strategy, this is essentially where you are going to be only more disappointed and hurt than you already are if you were to just understand that this is a boundary, because going no contact has always been about you getting the space away from this person so that you can begin to analyze and see things for what they are and figuring out what is the next best step for you. Number 2 is to continue to stalk their social media pages. I know that this is something that you think is an innocent thing and they'll never know, and this is a way for you to stay connected, but watching their stories or analyzing their posts keeps you, again, emotionally attached to them. So whether you realize this or not, you're inviting for an opportunity for you seeing something on their social media that can cause you to spiral and act irrationally, like reaching out to them or freaking out or, putting a post that's clearly something that is about them, which again, this is sending a sign to them that you are emotionally attached to them. And your avoidant feels that energy even if you're not texting them. And I know this tends to be a very common thing that most people misunderstand when going no contact with anyone else that doesn't have this avoidant attachment style, but it is especially important with someone who is an avoidant because they're always looking for these different signs to reassure themselves that you are essentially still available to them in some way or some form. So whether you realize it or not, you're still giving them power over you and still allowing them to affect you on that level. And that's why it's so important for you to go no contact, not just only blocking them from making text to you or calling you, but to also block them on all your social media platforms that you are connected to them. Number 3 is that the person breaks no contact at first sign of breadcrumbing. Now, this is something that can be so easy for most people to fall for because an avoidant does a really good job at breadcrumbing in the sense that they will say something or express an emotion that is very untypical to who they are and what you're used to. So, of course, you are going to take the bait and be wanting to see if this is a chance for them to finally express emotions and open up and wanting to work on things. And they will really double down on this if you're not responding to that first initial attempt, right? So it gets to a place where you really feel like this person has done what they need to do. But once they feel like they got you, that's when they change up again and they go right back to their avoidant ways because they're comfortable, right? They want to again see if they can get you back in, and once they feel like they do, they want to essentially go back to the way things were because they haven't done what is necessary to actually heal and move on from things. And instead of doing that, they want to essentially keep you around while continuing to run this avoidant attachment style and hopes that you will essentially just accept things for what they are in that way and just continue to go with it. So although breadcrumbing can disguise itself as an attempt of their way of trying to come back to you, it's not. They just want to see, are you still emotionally available to them so that they can, whenever they feel like, come back to you and not have to deal with the consequences of them being an avoidant. Number 4 is that the person waits instead of healing. This is a huge huge issue when it comes to people going no contact that are, again, outside of this avoidant attachment style, but is especially when it comes to this avoidant, again, here too, because when you are waiting around for somebody to potentially maybe change, you are setting yourself up for failure and more disappointment, because they typically are not going to. Because when it comes to anyone, especially an avoidant, they have to be the one that actually wants to make that change. And if they ever do get to that point, they really need to try to seek professional help, because they need to kind of unravel and understand what caused them to essentially be this way, which we know derives from them when they were younger and not getting their emotional needs from their caregivers. And because of that, they adopted this way of being because that was their way to protect themselves from that. So they really do need that assistance from a professional like a therapist to help them kind of process these things. And once they're doing that, it's still going to take some time for them to work through that, because healing doesn't just happen overnight. It takes time, because again, this happened over years and years and years. So it's going to take some time for them to unravel this and to finally kind of start to heal from that. So after all of that, that's when this avoidant can actually show up in the relationship and try to work things out. So if that avoidant ever does get to that point, you can see it's probably going to take a long time, and you got to ask yourself, would you want to wait that entire time for them to potentially do that? And that's a big potentially. I don't want to make it seem like all avoidants will never change, because that's not the case. Anyone in this world can change if they want to. But again, this has to come from themselves, and there's no telling when that is going to happen. And that's why it's so imperative for you to focus on yourself, because that is the only thing that you can control in this world, right? And deciding what is best for you. And so going no contact with the intentions of you focusing on your healing is the best thing that you can do here, because it's a win-win no matter what. Because either this person begins to realize the severity of this, because they start to see that you're not acting the same way that you would, where you're trying to do everything in your power to work things out, and you're starting to move on from them, and they start to take those real steps to changing, or they don't. But at the end of the day, you start to actually heal and move on from this relationship and rediscover yourself, so that when you're ready, you'll find somebody else who's willing to do that. But the most important thing that you want to remember here is that no contact isn't a countdown for their return, and instead is a reset for your self-worth. And number 5 is that they don't prepare emotionally for what no contact brings up. Silence is very powerful up front until the withdrawal symptoms hit. And you've probably experienced this, because initially when you go no contact, you gain that power back from them, feeling like you are finally taking control over your life, and you're no longer going to allow this person to continue to be this way. And it feels really good. But over time, you start to have these withdrawal symptoms that come up, where you start to be saddened by not being connected to them. And you've been so used to the manipulation of the back and forth of having them push and pull that your body starts to crave it. And these are things that are going to naturally come up for you when you go no contact. And I think a lot of people believe that it becomes more tough on the other person who you're going no contact with. But a lot of times it's the opposite way for a little bit, because you have gone through a lot, right? And there's a lot of things that are gone unresolved, and there's a lot of emotions that you've had, and there's still a part of you that does genuinely want to see the relationship work and have this question behind your head: did you do enough to try to make this relationship work? So these are things that are going to come up, and it can catch a lot of people off guard, because they're expecting that powerful feeling in the beginning to continue to be that way the entire time, which it's unrealistic for that. It's going to pass just like anything else. So you have to be prepared for that and understand that this is all a part of what no contact is, and more importantly, what is a part of you actually beginning to heal. And I think a lot of people start to shy away from this, because they think that healing is supposed to, for the most part, feel good, and it's not going to in the beginning. And there's a lot of different roller coasters and ups and downs, but you continuing to stick to this is what is going to feel good, and what's going to help you to begin to resolve through this, and reminding yourself that you're doing this for yourself. And that's what's so important and imperative in this. And I hope that if you take away anything from this video, that you understand that no contact is always about you. it is at the end of the day. And that's the most important thing that you have to remind yourself each and every day, because you will get distracted. You will feel like you need to essentially do something to try to make this work out, because you're just feeling this anxiety that you need to, right? And for whatever reason that you're feeling that way, whether you still love them, whether you feel like you haven't done enough, whatever that might be, that is valid. But at the end of the day, you have to come to the realization that you did everything that you possibly could. And this avoidant just did not do anything on their end to show you that they were willing to actually try to process things, because you weren't asking them to build a rocket. You were just simply asking them to take steps each and every day to show you that they were willing to try to work through this and process it with you. But they weren't even willing to do that. So it's important for you to put all that effort, time, energy, and love that you put into them in the relationship to try to make it work back into yourself, and understanding and figuring out what is best for you. And although this might be very challenging for you to do and to stick to, it's so important for you to do this, because I promise you at the end of this, you are going to feel so much better and you are going to heal. And when you're ready, you will find somebody else who's willing to put in the same effort that you are or above to try to make this relationship work, because they genuinely want to be there and show up in the relationship. I hope that you did enjoy this video. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.